Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks and another match of Beyond All Reason, where today it's finally time that we take a look at the brand new 1v1 map that just dropped, Prismatic Anomaly. Prismatic Anomaly version 1.02, I believe, specifically here, going to be what we're taking a look at today between two of the toppest tier commanders that there currently are out on the board. Spawning right here is our Red Armada leader. As a commander, spawning in the backline of a 1v1 map, I guess the terminology is a little different for 1v1 players. Spawning here in the starting position of Prismatic Anomaly, a map we're going to have to take a nice little look around because it looks beautiful. Going to be an Armada commander. It goes by the name of Barcast TV, representing the Pro Clan Barcast TV at 53 open skill, and currently, I actually have the leaderboards pulled up right here. Currently, Barcast TV sits at number 7 on the leaderboard, so the 7th in the world in dual game mode. Obviously, these leaderboards change just about daily, but as of at least the very moment that I'm recording this, Barcast TV is sitting comfortably in the 7 spot. Now, spawning right on the other side here, the blue commander spawning on this northern side here. It's a blue Armada commander that goes by the name of Raxel. And if you've been watching the videos recently, you've probably seen Raxel, especially if you've been watching the live streams on Saturdays, 12 to 4 PDT. Raxel's been participating in a bunch of the tournaments over there and has been a lot of fun to watch play the game. It's very curious to me that we're starting with an Armada vehicle bay as opposed to that Armada bot lab. Was favoring heavily that Armada bot lab in the tournament that I saw him playing in. Must be tempted to go towards vehicles here, I guess, because the map is big and wide and open. Seeing similar or dissimilar strategy here from Barcast, who is going for, I guess, at this point in the meta, you could call it a more traditional bot lab opener here. Going to be going for that good old-fashioned Armada bots. Raxel, by the way, also on the leaderboard here at position 5 as of recording this. So, number 5 versus number 7, 54 open skill versus 53. Their OS has actually changed slightly from this as it is over on the leaderboards, but you can imagine these are two commanders, very high skilled, and also this replay was a little bit longer than the usual 1v1 replay, so I was curious what actually went down between these two on this brand new map. Now let's get a look at this map. It is beautiful. Look at these wonderful little pyramid triangle things. I mean, you have to imagine what kind of bizarre environment it has to be in order to form these crazy crystalline structures here. Very nice defense though. Raxel spawning in the far corner, making sure to be very, very defensive. What this says to me is that Raxel doesn't want to risk it. Doesn't want to play a greedy build and try and risk anything here. Just going to build in the corner. Make sure that every reinforcement that comes out of this lab will be in position to defend should it be needed immediately. Raxel actually going to lock down this area over here with an LLT. Okay, not bad. Locking down choke points obviously much less expensive than locking down the entire map. Ooh, Commander will snag the tick. That's quite nice. And so far, the early game aggression has been deflected quite nicely. Now, between both of these commanders, I'm not sure who to favor. Barcast TV has, been around for a while, basically as long as I have, and has been casting games, and is definitely much more familiar with the 1v1 scene. Basically the founder of the 1v1 scene, at least in my mind. Sort of put together some of the more premier tournaments, and now, well, that's a bummer. Rover does get it. The repair micro was in place right there, but the Rover just barely manages to snag the mechs. And it's the first damage of the day, but I don't think it'll be the last. We have more Rovers moving in over here. Do we have a radar in position? We do not. Okay. No radar here for Barcast. Is a little risky. Commander is moving out of the map to, claim as much territory as possible, but it does mean that the base is a little bit exposed. Tons of constructors available here for Barcast, though. Interesting to see the pronunciation of constructors. Wow, we're going to even go for a wall. Okay. Different strategies. You can see the blue commander went for the LLT over here to lock this area down. Barcast is just going to go for the brute force method and go ahead and dump a little bit of metal into building a barricade. I don't hate it, of course. It is just interesting to see those two different styles being utilized. We have ticks all over the place over here as Barcast is, trying to find that value. And there we go. A bunch of rovers moving out on the map, run right on by a tick and a pawn. 2 ticks and a pawn, actually. I don't think they have a great way to get out of here, though, as more blitzes move into position. And man, they're looking good with that little lighting update recently. Oh, yeah. Everything is actually looking really nice. Nice and emissive. And those beautiful textures. We can swap over to the blitz tank now. Yeah, it's got those nice little flashing lights now wrapping around the barrels. It's got its little I-beam lights as well looking out from the front of that tank. Very, very cool to see. Very cool stuff indeed. Oh, still locked on there. There we go. So a little bit of a slower start here. Not slow for these commanders, but slower on the map. And I do notice that this is a relatively large 1v1 map. You could probably effectively play this map, I want to say almost 3v3. Like, you could have somebody spawn in the corner over here, and then one in the middle, and then one way over here on this side. You'd be a little strapped for metal on this side, I suppose, but that's alright. Yeah, no, never mind. There's 3 mexes there. I didn't see that third one. Yeah, you could probably play this map effectively 3v3. You might even be able to get away with 4v4 if you had somebody spawn really far forward, like on this position or something. You could basically do a 4v4 where you have 3 in a line, and then you have 1 in this back corner, and then 1 right here on these 3 mexes. Would be interesting to see. I will definitely be checking this map out, giving it a little bit of a test drive as we go ahead and stream this Saturday. Again, 12 to 4 PDT. I encourage people to come out because I see a lot of comments every single time on one of these videos. Well, not in every video, but in a lot of these videos where people are asking sort of where's a good place to begin playing Beyond a Reason. I would say it's a reasonable start. We do play with some funky settings here and there, but usually a very welcoming environment. I've been talking a lot of trash about the Banisher recently, though, so apparently it's gonna be a rough stream this Saturday. Apparently some folks are looking to smoke me. We do also have a 1v1 showdown between some commanders that needed to put their smack talk out on the field, so that'll be fun. We'll be covering that at the start of the stream this weekend, so feel free to tune in there as well. Pawn on the other side of the map. If only we moved it a little bit further forward here, might be able to snag the metal extractor. For now, though, that Mex has, paid for itself already. But there it goes. Mex does fall, and now it's denying mining time. Blitz is here, and a little bit of a hit squad. LLT will clean up 2 of them before the remaining 3 do manage to kill it and get on out of there. Oh, one of them turning back. A little bit of a pathing error right there. Just, the pathing of the AI. Oh, okay. These units run right on past each other. Like ships in the night, they do sail past each other here. As you can see, Barcast is just moving out on the map and building solar panels, just like, as you can see, Rexel is doing the same thing. One of those issues with these solar-only maps is that scaling either comes in one of 2 varieties. You build a turret and you have to build solar panels in your base, or you build solar panels with the commander out on the field. Obviously, risks inherent to both, right? You centralize your economy and suddenly you can find yourself in a really dangerous position all of a sudden if just a couple of units break through the main base. Or you put it on the field and it's very vulnerable to harassment. In this case, though, it looks like it's going to be a little bit of both for Raxel. Yeah, definitely feeling that E-stall here as both of these commanders. My goodness, they're up to 25. 25 metal per second here for Raxel and 23 for Barcast TV. Once that Mex right here comes back online, we will be neck and neck between these 2 commanders. Now, yeah, Raxel has very, very greedily expanded out to the side, though. And I like it. I think that's the right way to play vehicles, especially because those vehicles take so much metal before they actually come up to speed here. By the time that you actually have these vehicles up and running, you're going to be very strapped for metal. So I like that we solved the E-stall crisis, and now we can just focus on dumping that metal into more and more units on the field here. Whole bunch of pawns moving in to try and catch these tanks. I just realized my door is open. 1 second. Ahem. Professional commentator caster, everybody. You're very welcome to the Brightworks. Oh boy, where were we? Bunch of blitzes on the field. Interesting to see that we haven't made a pivot into medium tanks. I actually expected medium tank production basically as soon as we hit that 20 metal per second mark. That seems to be kind of where commanders, especially Armada commanders, core comms might go for a little bit more metal production just because the tanks are a little more expensive. But that's kind of where it seems like Armada commanders feel comfortable starting to go into those tanks. But man, if these pawns aren't looking just downright dangerous. In little hit squads like this, they can really effectively deal with significant forces here. But this is great. Gigantic run by right here from the blue commander. Gets into the main base and will now start blasting apart everything. Yeah, LLT is going to start cleaning up as much of this as possible. But frankly speaking, solar panels have already gone down. The build power has fallen. A couple of those construction bots are up and running, and we're rebuilding them here as well. Do I like this? Yeah, all those solar panels going down hurts a lot. That being said, Barcast did build loads of extra solars out on the map as well. The hit to the economy here isn't as big as I think Raxel thinks it is. This looks a lot worse than it actually is, I think. Sniping that constructor is definitely nice here. One of the benefits, of course, also as a bot player is that you have access to those res bots, which can be very useful for picking a lot of this stuff up. The solar panels, the blitzes, the constructors, all of it come back up basically as soon as you get enough of those res bots out on the field. The real issue is that you've got to pay for the energy somehow, and that can be very difficult to do. Yeah, look at this. An Armada headed forward right here for Raxel, going for the kill shot and just sending everything in the kitchen sink towards the main base here of the red commander. It is a moment like this where you have to wonder if going for a bunch of static defenses might be the right move here, just trying to get lightning turrets up and running or something like that. Frankly speaking, though, this is way too much metal to defend against any of that. 1600 metal for the blue commander here in blitzes, and that number is constantly growing as we continue to micro more and more forward. And there's not really anything out of this bot lab that's going to deal with a swarm like this. Out of the vehicle lab, you might go into something like a Janus. When these units are all bundled up, Janus can be very effective. But nothing out of the bot lab really strikes me as being the solution here. I mean, thugs are quite nice as well, don't get me wrong. They can do a lot of damage, and especially against bundled units, they can do a little bit of AoE damage. But I just don't see them getting into position fast enough here. Yeah, I think pawns really are the only answer. You essentially have to trade out your pawns and then seed a bunch of ground in order to get the resbots in position to eat up all the metal, or even better yet, resurrect a bunch of this stuff. Whole bunch of LLTs are available, and that's nice. That sort of passively whittles down a bunch of this. But also, with all those solar panels down, the energy is just crippled right here for Barcast. Love this little counterattack. We do have a couple of pawns. At least one has been resurrected here. They're headed out on the map to try and do their very best to get a little bit of damage done, but this main base is in loads of trouble. I mean, there are the LLTs. The LLTs are doing good work here. Eventually, I think those LLTs will be the difference between winning and losing this entire facility. Every one of them that goes down weakens this a lot here, but there is also, of course, tons of reclaim. And we have the resbots available. Like, if we send the resbot out here, that's 3,000 metal worth of units. That is now dumped directly into the red base. I mean, could we see that turned into, for instance, advanced solar panels? You build 2 advanced solar panels, and essentially your entire energy economy is stabilized, at least for the foreseeable future. I also wouldn't mind seeing an investment in beamer turrets. If we're going to just keep continuing to be aggressive through the same parts of the map, beamer turrets can be really dangerously effective against those pawns. And those blitzes. I wonder if you could build them now. You can't really build on these pyramids, which is interesting. Essentially an unbuildable but a all-terrain passable, well, terrain. Definitely very interesting because at the very least it means that you have an opportunity for those T2 spiders to be really pesky, hanging out on top of the pyramids and firing down at the units that can't quite reach them. Self-D on these LLTs, perhaps? No, self-D will be spotted here. LLT does manage to take down a couple of these with it. And this LLT is going to try its best here as well. Not certain that it's going to get much value, though. Those bots trying their best, but they will be sniped. The constant aggression has made for a very, very easy time for the blue commander. I mean, you can see Rexel is just comfortably expanding out on the map. Sort of moving wherever he pleases, not really worried about grabbing these mexes too quickly, just expanding sort of slow and steady. Not expanding with the constructors means, of course, that, yeah, Rexel is leisurely marching around with the commander, but it does mean that all the constructors can focus on the backline. Oh, okay, we've got to play here. Rexel apparently feeling comfortable enough to stop all unit production and instead go into a whole bunch of Banshees. Now, Barcast might sniff this out, actually, because Banshees are a pretty popular transition, especially for Armada commanders, especially when there's a distinctive lead, like, for instance, the entire main base of the opponent being devastated pretty badly here. A little bit of a blitz battle going on. You know, I like this less and less. As more of these are resurrected, as the resbot numbers continue to grow, this suddenly starts to look a little bit worse. Like, all this metal is just going to end up on the other side of the map. Barcast, oh no. Barcast TV not looking at the commander. Not paying attention to the commander. Well, okay, these things are doing something funky here. I'm not sure what the Banshees are up to. Barcast, yeah, we just got a cloak. There's not really anything you can do to save the commander against this. He's cloaked the commander and started moving it, but keeping it moving obviously costs 1,000 energy per second. Commander does cloak, though, and there's nothing to reveal it, so at the very least the Banshees will, well, the Banshees will be not countered per se, but they'll be avoided. Yeah, target fire right there to try and shoot the commander while it's cloaked by the Banshees, but that's not where it's really standing anymore. Barcast TV is safe, at least for now, and does make the transition into fighters. Okay, so those Banshees almost caught BCTV off guard, but he did manage to cloak in time before they were able to snipe him. He needs to get across and do some damage, though. At this point, the vehicle production has resumed here after the Banshees have been called off. Fighters will have to be made in order to shoot this down, but of course that means metal going into the air and not onto the ground. It's where these resbots can really make up the difference, right? Because there's sort of a production, in a sense, in the way that the resbots are resurrecting a bunch of these tanks. But other than that, there's really just not a lot coming up and running right here for Barcast to retaliate. Fighters are shooting the Banshees down. It's quite nice. Those Banshees didn't really get I don't think as much value as they probably could have. It probably would have just been best to fan them out and use them to snipe as many mexes as possible. If you don't go ahead and kill the commander with those banshees, that's sort of the first, like, skill check, right? Like, are you paying attention to this game? Are you going to cloak your commander, or can I get the kill for free? And Barkas cloaked it in time, so that check was passed. Now it's time for those banshees to go away, so trading them out as effectively as possible here while the fighters clean them up. And then I'm expecting to see a transition out of airplanes here eventually. I mean, it's kind of it's an arms race between air factions, right? Once you go into the air, you can't really ever leave the air. One of the biggest issues is because if your opponent ever goes for bombers or something like that, it can be devastating on a map like this. Fighters really struggling to hit that Banshee right there. What on earth is going on here? There we go. Finally kill that Banshee. What was I talking about? Yeah, if you ever leave the air, it looks like Barkas still risk it. If you ever leave the air and your opponent gets back into air, you can be in a really rough way. It can suddenly cause tons of issues. A couple of bombers come up and you don't have any fighters, or you don't have any production to make fighters. Yeah, you can end up in a really, really sour spot pretty quickly here. Energy is capping out, though, for the red commander, so I'm glad to see that we're increasing build power. Going to be scaling into some of those advanced advanced solars, rather, as well, which I think is quite nice. You can get very, very high energy production out of just a bunch of these advanced solars, so it makes a lot of sense to eventually start going into those. But even if you wanted to start thinking about, for instance, T3, or T2, pardon me, jumping the gun a little bit here. If you wanted to get into T2, I mean, eventually T3, I suppose. Yeah, advanced solars are sort of the way you want to go. The regular solar panels are just so energy inefficient. Metal to energy production inefficient. Little run-bys all over the place, though, and we do have constructor squads going around, which is really nice for Barcast. Like, there is loads of construction happening. We have Resbots resurrecting everything over here, and despite this aggression, which is being, well, it's doing a little bit of damage over here. A bunch of blitzes, managing to find some more mexes and some solar panels. All those corpses still lie on the floor. Blitzes don't overkill much, so as long as the Resbots stay alive, we are transitioned out of them now. Like, there is no more Resbots, but now that we have the A-Solars up and running, we could even start considering eating some of the regular Solars to fund some of this. That's just shifting your metal around, but it can be really efficient. I'm surprised we don't see more Beamer turrets, though. This map really seems to be heavily focused around the choke points here. This is my first time taking a look at this map, by the way. This is the live Brightworks first impressions here you're getting. This map seems to be very heavily focused on choke points. Like, you can imagine a Beamer turret sort of centrally located right here, cuts off a bunch of access. Same thing over on this side as well. Like, this is a really nice area, and then you have not sure why I drew that symbol. You have this area as well. Like, there's a lot of these pyramids kind of create some interesting choke points that I think would be best utilized by building static defense in them and then using walls to force those engagements in those choke points. Medium tanks, the poison of choice here for Barcast, trying to get a bunch of those stouts out on the field, but my goodness, there's just a billion blitzes. And they're doing pretty good, too. Another big wave of blitzes is headed towards the base. And again, we have the LLTs in position, so like the blitzes, if they dive on the base, they are going to get lasered apart here. And ultimately just be metal donated to that side of the map. So is it really worth it? And I think it's nice here that Rexel has decided not to. We do have a big counterattack on this side, by the way. We have the red forces moving in. Rexel's commander actually a little exposed. So this is one of those big risks with, well, if you accidentally use that commander to expand and forget about it, sometimes you can end up with your commander in really unfortunate spots. Areas where you didn't necessarily intend for it to be. Stouts trading quite efficiently here against all of these blitzes. A little bit of an APM stall right there from Rexel. Yeah, busy worrying about this side of the map, no doubt. And suddenly, a bunch of those blitzes do go down. Resbots dutifully resurrecting everything as well. It also helps because the constructors come back online. As those constructors are rebuilt here, it also means that you can continue expanding, which is really nice for Barcast. Even if he loses a few out on the field, it's not the end of the world because they'll just get back up eventually. Ooh, Rexel very close right there. The commander just barely manages to avoid detection. Man, if we had E-stalled just a little too harshly right there, this commander might have run out of power and been revealed to these tanks, which would have been a nightmare for Rexel. He would have had to pull all forces back to try and defend that commander. Maybe go for some D-gun, something like that. Instead, though, the right-hand side has been swept away, and the aggression is being pulled back, but honestly, I think Barcast could actually afford to keep it up. Sending these tanks in, even just to figure out what areas are and aren't protected by medium, or LLTs, or medium laser turrets would be phenomenal. T2 transition has been completed, by the way. We are eventually going to scale into those advanced solar panels, which is nice to see. 75 energy a pop for each one of these. 350 metal for 75 energy versus, you know, if you take 300-ish metal for T1 solar panels, it's less than half that amount. Or almost exactly half that amount. What would it be? 37.25? Never do math in a video. That's the #1 golden rule on YouTube here. Apparently, nobody ever told me. I love this. I love the advanced swords coming up here. Are we seeing the same thing over here for broadcast? Yeah, I mean, to a lesser degree, right? We've got the fighters in the air. Seems like we're more hesitant to go into that T2 transition here. Broadcast a little bit more optimistic that T1 can win this fight. And, well, certainly I would be in the same shoes. We have the lightning tanks rolling out now, and as they start to build up in numbers, medium tanks start to fall way quicker. And that's one of the biggest things about medium tanks, is just that they have a lot of HP. They don't do a ton of damage, and they don't have a lot of range, and they're not particularly fast, but they have a lot of HP. So if the enemy can counter that exact one aspect about your tanks, then you're in a really rough way, and that's exactly what the Jaguars are meant to do. They're fast enough to dodge a lot of the projectiles here that these plasma tanks throw out, and of course their lightning beam does tons and tons of damage, so they can melt down those medium tanks really effectively. They are, in all senses of the word, if microed properly, the ultimate medium tank killer. So this should be the moment right here where Barcast makes a critical decision. Do we go into T2, or do we pivot into something a little bit more dire? It's going to be fighters, at least for the time being, which is interesting because these Jaguars do have anti-air, so we're sort of risking it all going into units that are indirectly countered already. Is the plan to go for a bombing run or something, I wonder? We do have medium tanks moving across the map here as well. Little hit squad of blitzes also been resurrected and sent around to make sure that there's no rebuilding. They might actually... Ooh, these are actually going to find the commander over here. That's a really nice scout. Fighters lingering around the midsection of the map here for Barcast, and suddenly things have shifted in tone here. As more and more of this T2 rolls out, that tone is going to, well, shift back in favor of the blue commander here, but we actually don't even have enough build power. Oh, no, pardon me. That's Barcast that actually doesn't have enough build power to continue producing right here. We will eventually get into a T2 lab. We have the T2 lab starting up right now, and with those A solars coming online, like I said before, you can start to eat up these T1 solars in favor of getting more advanced solars. Shift your metal around so that you have more of it in production, less of it in, well, regular T1 solar panels. That's where most of us would prefer to keep our metal, is in advanced solar panels or T2. Definitely not those T1 solar panels, I would hope anyways. A lot of fighters have gone down, I've noticed. Those, yeah, fighters that have been patrolling in the middle of the map have been cleaned up really nicely by the Jaguar. Their missile doesn't do a lot of damage, but 4 or 5 or 6 of them can definitely bring down a T1 fighter pretty rapidly here. And now the Blitzes are certainly outclassed. I mean, the Blitz is essentially the same type of tank as the Jaguar. Fast, heavy hitting, not particularly high HP. Except everything's a lot better for the Jaguar. Across the board in every measurement, the Jaguar is just better. Compared at least to the Blitz tank, so no surprise here to see that they are effortlessly carving through the forces that were resurrected right there. We've hit that threshold now where suddenly resurrecting these units has no value. Because they can be cleaned up with near 100% efficiency, resurrecting the units is never going to be as efficient as yeah, going ahead and going for, well, reclaiming them and turning them into T2 units. That's the idea, right? Once T2 is out, that's the most efficient unit you can make. Reclaim everything and put it into T2 as quickly as you can, and you're going to be in a really good way. Fighter plane. Ooh, gets lasered down. Rare we get a chance to see one of those. Lightning tanks still doing tons of work, though. Jaguars are coming out here for the red commander as well, so we are going to eventually see a good old-fashioned lightning tank brawl between the two warring factions here. The two Armada clans going up against each other, and that anti-air missile connects with the fighter. Nicely done. It's just that there's so much on the field already for the blue commander. And eventually we could probably pivot into those bulls here. I wonder, I mean, yeah, we have about 500 Jaguar tanks queued up here, but eventually you do start pivoting into those bulls. Kind of around the time that you hit, I don't know, maybe 1,500 energy production, something to that effect, is when you can really start to think about pivoting into those bulls. But 1 or 2 of them on the field can be really dangerous, especially if you support it properly with a bunch of Jaguars. They can be almost impossible to stop. Oh, okay, we went for a fusion reactor here. Fusion reactor and a bull, 2 of the most expensive things side by side that you can produce at this time. This looks like a critical error to me. Yeah, Barcast has gone for that fusion, assuming that it was a bit of a lull in the battlefield, when in fact these lightning tanks have been carving apart the forces. Will the bull be enough to drive all this back? I don't think so. There's a lot of lightning. Oh, D-gun's away. That's a commander in trouble, though. Another bull tank rolls out of the field here. Okay. For now, the bull has pushed this all back. Left-hand side in a bunch of trouble, though. Yeah, Jaguar's just too powerful. So quick and so mobile out on the field. No contest right here. The Jaguars are going to easily sweep away all the T1 solar panels that were out on the field, as well as all the mexes. Those LLTs may as well be nothing in the face of the Jaguar tanks rolling forward. They have enough HP to be sustained against them, and then, of course, their damage will burst them down in just a few Berserts. Just like that. With an overwhelming production, it will be none other than Raxel who takes the win in this 24-minute long 1v1 game
Battle
between two
ended.
top-tier 1v1 players. I don't cast as many 1v1 games as I probably ought to. It's definitely an interesting meta, and watching these players go at it makes me wonder where things are going to go in the future. If you have any thoughts on that, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. While you're checking that out, you may also be interested in joining the Brightworks Discord community, which is officially a community now. If you have suggestions about what to do with the community on Discord, I'm all ears. I'm always happy to hear feedback from lovely viewers like you. Thank you. And I hope to see you in the very next cast of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.